For sure. Now, you talk recruiting, which leads me to the coaching search, which is what everybody wants to talk about. Let's face it. I was joking with somebody over the weekend.
Let's just get to it.
I'm like, man, I was joking with somebody though, but I'm serious. I'm like, man, every piece of content we put out that's about the coaching search, I mean, it just blows up. I mean, people they want to know who the next head football coach is going to be. And obviously we have a lot to talk about today that is, it's all rumor right now, but like I just told you, and I think everybody's pretty much seen it at this point, rumors swirling about Shane Beamer. And that's the lead candidate. Let's not dance around it. Shane's the lead candidate. When you start hearing things about financials being in place, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke when you start talking about money numbers. 4 years, $3 million per is what is rumored for Shane Beamer. And I'm assuming Shane would not say no to that on any planet. I don't think he's going to say no.
No.
But just talk about, again, if you've heard anything, whatever, everything I'm hearing points to Shane Beamer being the next head football coach. And I don't know if it was the day of or maybe it was a day after, Alex, after we spoke last week. But obviously, again, the outpour of support continues for Shane Beamer. Marcus Lattimore going on public record and giving that vote of confidence. And, again, you've seen Devontae Holloman, Steven Garcia, DJ Swearinger, Patrick DeMarco. I mean, the names keep going on. The best to ever wear the garnet and black. And I was talking to somebody about this over the weekend. Tori Gurley, good buddy of mine, former player. And I was telling him, I said, Tori, no offense. I don't think South Carolina should do everything that you guys say. I don't think South Carolina should do everything that the greatest players of all time at South Carolina say. But with that being said, man, it is hard to completely ignore the support that Shane Beamer is getting for this job. And I mean, listen, I've talked to a ton of former players, obviously, on my show, guys I've had on there talking about the culture, getting the culture back, getting that back in the building, getting a guy who knows what it's about, getting a guy in Shane Beamer who's seen South Carolina at its best. He understands what that culture is like. I guess just overall, again, your thoughts on everything we're hearing right now, because again, like I said, it feels like right now it's all aboard the Shane train. I think all signs are pointing towards Shane Beamer. Yes, I've heard a little Neil Brown. Yes, I've heard maybe some Jamie Chadwell talk. Billy Napier's name continues to come up, obviously. But, man, I'll tell you right now, Alex, if I had to put money on it, I'd be shocked if South Carolina did not hire Shane Beamer as their head coach.
I would too. There's a part of me. So looking at like the guys you just mentioned that have endorsed Beamer and being a Beamer endorser myself,
yeah,
I don't think anybody's saying like you've got to only listen to these guys, right? It's we have to do what the former greats of the field said that we have to do. That doesn't have anything to do with it. It's really just if you're looking at the candidates in totality, like guys that have been in the locker room with him and been on the field with him and been coached by him certainly have an advantage in knowing like what he brings to the table that general message board trolls don't know. They're just going to look at, well, he's never been a head coach, so clearly he's a failure. No, that's not how that works. And bringing that culture back, I don't even know that it's really the culture. It's just, there seems to have been, or at least on the interwebs, there seems to be this whole thing floating around where, it turned into a me first thing where, the players were just kind of out on their own and doing their own thing. And the only thing that was kind of keeping them together was the coaching staff bringing them to practice and bringing them to meetings. And it's about bringing, even more so than the coach bringing the culture, it's bringing in the guys that fit that. And not just everybody you can get. And so I think, Shane's got an advantage in that because he was here at the foundation of the height of the program.
Yeah.
And he knows what that looks like. He knows how to run that. He knows exactly what they were doing to foster that kind of growth. And I think that is something that's invaluable to bring to the table because every time I read something where, it's stupid to hire somebody without head coaching experience or that's even been a coordinator. We were talking before we started, Butch Jones had a great record at Cincinnati. Jim McElwain was an excellent coach at Colorado State. And the list can go on and on and on about, grabbing guys from mid-major programs that have had some success. I mean, honestly, if you're going to ride that train, on the head coaching record, Jamie Chadwell should be everybody's number one, because it wasn't just one place that he won. He won at multiple stops at multiple levels. So, I mean, if you want to go that route with it, it's got to be Chadwell. But at the end of the day, what we need, in my opinion, is somebody that can come in that knows our situation better than, Napier's going to know it, then Shadwell's going to know it, then Hugh Freeze is going to know what we're up against, how to work within that system of disadvantages to maximize the product that you're putting on the field. And Shane knows how to do that.
Yeah, and I was going to say this too, as far as the former players speaking out, whatever. Maybe that wouldn't be such a big factor normally. But to me, the way I look at it, Alex, is unless there's a guy out there who is just a clear-cut better option than Shane. And again, we've talked about the Urban Meyers and the Bob Stoops of the world. But realistically, when you take a look at the short list of, and I don't even think Hugh Freeze is on the short list anymore. I just don't think South Carolina would go that direction. But when you're talking about guys like Shane Beamer, Billy Napier, Jamie Chadwell, unless Napier or Chadwell just destroy the interview and they are just head and shoulders that much better of a candidate than him, if it's an even playing field, why would you not go with the guy that's got the endorsement of the greatest players to ever step foot on your campus? Like, because you know what? I guess if nothing else, like, heck, I don't know. Hey, people have said, hey, we're going to find ourselves here in 4 or 5 years. We're going to be doing this all over again. Guys, it doesn't matter who the next head coach is. If you don't win, we are going to be here in 5 years. That's how college football works. You don't get 10 years to build a program anymore. You're seeing it all over college football, right? Look at Jeremy Pruitt, probably about to lose his job. I mean, it happens everywhere. So, like, Shane, it's not just exclusive to Shane Beamer. Like, whatever. You're going to roll the dice no matter what. And I guess that's my point. And if you're going to roll the dice, like I was telling you off air, Alex, if you're going to roll the dice, why not roll it with the guy that's cut his teeth at USC? Why not roll it with the guy who, has been here and done that? I mean, I understand Napier's head coaching experience, but and I don't want the Clemson thing to be like a big factor in why you don't hire him, but it's kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, who would I rather take? The guy all the former players want and love and he was at USC, or the guy who got fired by Dabo Swinney from Clemson? Like, I don't know. I didn't ride with the guys. So,
well, that's a good point. It's just the takes on the internet are dumb, and I've seen it from like more prominent people than I would like to see it from. Just, like that somehow not being a head coach before is some like huge detriment.
Right.
Against
it's becoming more and more common. And I'll tell you this, not to cut you off. My buddy that I don't think I mentioned this on the Monday show. My buddy that I talked to that works at Georgia, because Kirby had never been a head coach, right? Kirby had never been a head coach.
Nope.
When he got the Georgia job. We were talking about the whole Shane Beamer. He fully endorses Shane Beamer, by the way. Again, a good buddy of mine. I don't think he just blows smoke up my ass. He worked with Beamer in Athens, right? No, he knows Shane Beamer very well. And he basically said, hey, man, Shane's going to be your next head coach, just so you know. So, I mean, I think it's going to happen. But he was talking about Shane Beamer, and we were talking about Kirby. And he's like, bro, that's where college football is. He's like, bro, people think Kirby calls his own defense. He's like, do you really think Kirby calls his own defense? Absolutely not. No, he's like, I've been in the meeting rooms till midnight. You know who's in there? The defensive coordinator. You know who's not in there? Kirby. He's not there. So, I mean, that and I know people get tired of, and I've seen people saying, God, I hope I never hear the word culture again or CEO type fit again. And I know it's overused, but really, like, that's the way college football is going now. The head coach is just the talking head, the CEO type. Get some great coordinators in there. Let them work for you. I think that's one thing Muschamp was never able to do. He couldn't get out of his coordinator's way. Let these guys work. You pay them a lot of money. Let them do their job.
Exactly.
So, and you be the headpiece that recruits and sells the program.
That's it, man. And that's what Shane's going to be. And it's like, you're paying these guys to do this job. Let them do it. Like, there's too much on your plate to run a program for you to get bogged down at midnight in the defensive meeting rooms.
Right.
Like, that's insane. Like, like, his time is better spent recruiting or putting stuff together that they want to look at. Anything of that nature. Like, that's your job, is to make sure that all those pieces fit together in the right way to give you the most success.
Yeah.
I think he's got a unique perspective on that.
And you are the CEO of the organization. Again, people get tired of hearing that, but bro, it's not just you're selling the program to recruit. Hey, you got to deal with boosters. You got to deal with the president and the AD.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something the assistants deal
Yep.
with. There's a lot of moving pieces there as a head football coach in 2020 and moving to 2021 that head coaches maybe didn't have to deal with 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's a lot different now. Like, it's a lot different, especially the way you have to recruit. That's why Spurrier got out of the game. He didn't want to recruit. He didn't want to do it. So
he didn't want to do it when he was at Florida, though.
Well, but he didn't have to. That's what I'm saying. The game has changed.
Yeah.
You know, he thought it was going to be like at Florida where it's like, hey, we're winning. I'm Steve Spurrier. Come here. Boom. I don't have to say another word. And at Florida, that worked. And in South Carolina, obviously, it did not, because that's just not how it works. And I guess that's kind of the funny thing.
You know when it did work, though?
When's that?
When Shane came on.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. Well, Shane was the one busting his ass recruiting. Yeah. I mean, Spurrier let his assistants recruit for him. I just think At some point it kind of caught up in the sense where it's like you're so uninvolved. You know what I mean? You're so uninvolved where, like, it's going to be tough to, 5-star guy comes on campus and you don't even know his name. That's a tough look.
That was a tough look. That was a tough look.
Yes. But
tough look.
Getting back to, and it's funny because we're talking out the whole recruiting side of it. And in my head, I'm like, I understand Shane Beamer's never been a head coach, but do you think a recruit that we're going to go after really gives a damn if Billy Napier sells the fact he was a head coach at Louisiana? Or if Jamie Chadwell sells that he was a head coach at Coastal? Those kids don't care. They don't care about that. What does it matter? What difference does it make? Like,
it doesn't.
I don't know. I think we're just, here's the thing, because I think people want me to like pick one guy and say everybody else sucks. And I guess that's just the nature of the internet, right? It's the hot take central. And because in my takes, I've always been very much, I guess strong in my opinion and stuff like that. But it's kind of funny with this coaching search, man. Unless you went and hired a Jeff Monken, which you're not going to, like whether it's Freeze, Napier, Beamer, Chadwell, Neil Brown, I'm kind of like, I'm going to get behind the next guy no matter what. Like, I don't think any of those are terrible hires. I don't. So that's
that's the thing.
That's why I don't understand people freaking out to Beamer, because it's like, we're splitting hairs, guys. Like, they're all going to be a risk. We're rolling the dice no matter who we hire. I mean, so.
And again, we've talked about this before, but I mean, the floor on those three,
so much higher.
Like compared to where we were, is refreshing at best.
Yeah. No,
because
for sure.
I don't get the Beamer thing either. I mean, it is what it is. But I think it's incredibly short-sighted.
Yeah. And again, normally, I guess, like, you wouldn't, the former players coming out and endorsing him the way they have, maybe that wouldn't be the lead storyline or the lead thing we're talking about in regards to this coaching search. But isn't it a little intoxicating? I mean, God, you got all these guys, and they're the best players to ever wear it, best players to ever do it. It's hard not to listen to them, man. It's very hard, very hard.
I agree. I mean, what other endorsement? Again, guys that were in the room with him,
right,
that have been coached by him, that were recruited ultimately by him. Like, they know what he is in the living room. They know what he is on the field. Like, they know all of that stuff, and that's where they want the program to go. Obviously, it's where I want the program to go. And the vitriol, I don't get it. But such is life, right?
Well, and I'll say this too, Alex, in closing. It's almost gotten to the point for me, man, that, like I said, unless you have a candidate in mind that is just like, maybe Napier completely just crushes the interview. And he's just like, Tanner and Casson leave that meeting. They're like, we can't hire anybody else. Like, unless it's that type of scenario, it's almost like, to me, if you don't hire Beamer, you're almost kind of spitting in those guys' faces in a way. And that is not the scenario we want to or need to be in.
Nope. I like, you keep like crushing the interview. Well, like, what is crushing?
I don't know. Well, see, I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. I don't know. Just I'm saying, unless they meet with a guy and you leave that meeting and you're like, we got to have that guy as our next coach. It's no doubt we have to have him. I don't know what that would pertain to necessarily. I don't know if he gives a Lou Holtz-esque speech. I don't know. I don't know what it would be, but that's what I'm saying. If it's like, okay, all three are equal in the interview process, we're going to go with our guy. I mean, bottom line. And that was, I think that's my biggest thing. I was just going to say, that's my biggest thing. What I've told people is like, bro, I I mean, I do care who South Carolina hires, but again, we're splitting hairs. I would just say, if I could say one message to Castle and Tanner and the search committee, hey, I don't give a damn what nobody on Twitter says or social media or the stats. If you think he's the guy, go with it. Pull the trigger. Whatever. Roll the dice. Let's do it. Don't second guess it. If you think Beamer's the guy, just do it. Don't listen to what anybody says, because you know that the media is going to come out and talk shit, and you're going to have different radio hosts and personalities and podcasts and Twitter and message board. Who gives a damn? You make the hire you think's the best fit, and we'll go from there. Bottom line, don't let anybody, because again, like I told you last week, people tweeting out stats of like, this is how first-time head coaches in the SEC. Bro, according to the stats, we should never win the SEC. So who really gives a damn what the stats say? What does it matter? You know what I mean? So,
I mean, it's this the statistics you presented, or that were presented, were to frame an argument on why Shane shouldn't be hired. But you can make the stats say whatever they want. I mean, yeah, there's going to be failures everywhere. A la Derek Mason just got axed at Vanderbilt, who would be an outstanding defensive coordinator for us going forward, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. I mean, unless like Napier and Chadwell or Brown walked in there and said, "Hey, I've got this $40 billion hedge fund that's going to back me to buy players." I don't know what they're going to say that gives them a leg up on somebody that's been in the program, put together some of the best recruiting classes the program's ever seen. Just because he's never had a W tagged to his name.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, we're talking here on a Tuesday. This show's out on a Tuesday. From what we've heard, this thing could be going down sooner than we think. But I tweeted this morning, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, I think, at this point. So, hey, all aboard the Shane train. If you're not, just buckle up. I think that's kind of the direction we're going.